Hello, everyone. This is A Lil Spooky.
Hi there.
This is a podcast about things that scare us a little bit. Things like aliens, cryptids, conspiracies, or having a nightmare that you are going to be late for class even though you haven't been to school in 10 years. My name is Everett.
My name is Colleen.
Colleen, how you doing, Colleen?
Fine. I have that nightmare probably weekly.
In case this is anyone's first episode, it's Colleen.
It's Colleen, yes. My name is Colleen.
Yes. Well, how are you darn today, though, Colleen?
I'm darn pretty good. Darn great. I'm darn.
Go on YouTube and just search How You Darn. It's going to be a compilation of clips from Norbit. It's pretty funny. But, all right, what are we talking about today, Colleen?
Today we are redeeming the underdog of last week's Cryptid Battle Extravaganza. They got the crown ripped from them.
Let me guess who. Spring Hill Jack.
No, God, gross. I don't want to give that rapist any of our time.
Who?
We
What?
are redeeming the Hopkinsville Goblins.
Them.
Yes, them. And I think by the time I'm through explaining, you will understand why I chose them over Bigfoot.
I'm familiar with the story, but
Are you?
I mean, to a point, I suppose, but I still do think that Bigfoot would beat them in a battle, but maybe I'll change my mind. I don't know. Honestly,
you probably won't change your mind. I might have changed my mind a little bit after doing this research, but I refuse to admit it. So,
well, let's hear it.
Okay. This is one of the most well-documented and significant UFO/extraterrestrial sightings ever. It's like super well-documented. You can find original statements, you can find images of police statements, you can see original drawings. It's super interesting.
Hell yeah.
This story takes place on August 21st, 1955 in a small town called Kelly, Kentucky, which is pretty much adjacent to Hopkinsville.
Okay.
If you look up Kelly on a map, you don't see anything. You just see a highway. So when you look up Hopkinsville, the map scrolls down about 2 inches and you see a teeny tiny little town. It was pretty small. The 2010 census puts it at around 30,000 people. So I imagine in 1955 it was
probably closer
smaller.
to half that.
Yeah, I mean, I could be wrong. I didn't look up the population in 1955, but I imagine it was a fairly small community back then. Just to give you a picture of what Hopkinsville is like in 2020, the map shows that Hopkinsville consists of a Walmart,
boo,
a Chick-fil-A,
boo, but also I wish,
a Trail of Tears Memorial Park.
That's unfortunate.
And a Buffalo Wild Wings.
Okay, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's really all you need to survive in America.
Well, Walmart for sure, yeah.
Right. If anyone's from Hopkinsville and wants to defend your town or, tell us
or if
all
you're
the good stuff
or if
about
you're
it.
A goblin.
Yeah, or if you're a goblin, contact us. Let us know what it's like, because the only information I have is what I gleaned from this story and Google Maps.
Sure.
Now, Kelly, Kentucky, on the other hand, as I said, it's not even labeled in Google Maps. It just shows a highway. I imagine it was either the exact same in 1955, or perhaps there were even less people living in there. But this story takes place in a 3-room unpainted house with no running water, no TV, no radio, no telephone, and no books.
They didn't paint the house, so what'd they do?
Well, I mean, it gets better, because inside this unpainted house with absolutely zero methods of entertainment, there was the Sutton family, which consisted of 50-year-old Glennie, her 2 sons and their wives. So that's 5 right there. Her brother-in-law, so that makes 6. And then 3 of Glennie's younger children, which were ages 11, 9, and 7, young.
Wait, she was 55 though?
She was 50.
Oh, 50.
Yeah, but she had quite a few kids, and it sounds like there was quite a bit of a gap between the 2 oldest sons and the 3 younger kids.
Okay.
So there's 9 people living in this house, living there. But at the time of this story, there were actually 11 people staying in the house, because there was a family friend named Billy Ray and his wife. And they were visiting from Pennsylvania. They were visiting Lucky, who is Glennie's son, who worked with them at a carnival.
Why were they visiting? if there's absolutely nothing to do.
You are asking the wrong question. But you can imagine from this situation that these got to be a hardy people, down to earth American folks.
Do you know if they were like very conservative religious or something, where like, you know, like the Dutch Amish where they like, refused to have electricity?
I don't think that was the case. I think this was just 1955.
I mean, I know, like,
country.
obviously TV wasn't, like, in every household by then, but...
Right. It is surprising they wouldn't have a radio or books.
Or books, yeah.
But,
or running water, you said?
Or running water. I mean, if you're in a tiny town...
That's true.
They have a well. I mean...
Right, yeah.
I think the lack of books being pointed out is a little odd, especially the lack of radio as well, just because I'm thinking in 1955. If you don't have a TV, which I imagine not everybody had a TV.
No.
I mean, I seem to remember my mom telling me the story of when she got her first TV, and that was like in the early 70s. The point is, these are some
very
country folk.
Hardy people.
Yes. I mean, honestly, it doesn't even really seem like their lives were consistent with 1955. Like, it seems they're still living in frontier days.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah. The local police chief from Hopkinsville, the one who took this family's statement, said the story itself was ridiculous, but the one thing that gave the story credibility is that there's no way these people would ever run to the police for any reason. If there was an issue, these sorts of people generally grab their gun and sort it out
and
themselves.
Settle it themselves, yeah.
Exactly. And you will hear that's how they first attempt to handle this situation. But the point is, even the local police chief took them seriously enough due to the fact that I'm sure he was aware of these people in such a small town.
Right, yeah.
So that's just one thing that lends this story credibility, just to keep that in the back of your mind. In addition to the fact that it was 11 people, which is hard to keep one story straight among 11 people.
Right, yep.
When this encounter was over, all 11 of them booked it down to the police station. It was noted that they were absolutely terrified and that one of the men had a heart rate of 140 beats per minute. So you can tell that whatever occurred, they believed in their story 100%. Okay, this is the story. It's 7 p.m. at this little house in Kelly, Kentucky. It's a hot and sunny evening, and Billy Ray, the visitor, went out to the family well to get some water.
Okay.
As he's pulling up the bucket from the well, he sees this giant silvery object pass silently over the house.
Okay.
And then just drop out of the air.
One of them newfangled TVs?
Could have been. But he sees it. He's like, whoa, holy shit. He runs into the house and he tells the family. And of course, they all laugh at him. And I'm sure he brushed it off and was like, I probably just imagined it.
Yeah.
It's hot.
Right.
But an hour after this incident, the family dog starts barking hysterically. Billy and Lucky, they open the back door and they see this strange, glowy haze. And in the middle of it, there was a 3.5 foot tall creature that had an almost perfectly round, oversized head, arms that reached all the way to the ground with huge talons, and it had oversized eyes that glow with yellowish light. So does that sound like a stereotypical alien to you?
Well, I do know that these are the inspiration for Sableye, the Pokemon, and I am just envisioning this without crystals for eyes, basically.
Yes, actually, yes, kind of like that. But the thing is, this is where that stereotype of what like the Greys comes from. There has never been a mention of an alien that looks like this until this story in 1955. Like the big eyes, big round head, small body.
Sure, yeah.
Greys. So this is the origination of that, which is another point in their favor because they would not have heard of previous...
They don't have books anyway.
I'm sure they're not completely cut off. Like they live by Hopkinsville. Someone there has a radio.
Sure.
But they would not have heard of this particular stereotype of like the little green aliens.
Right.
This is coming directly from their imaginations or they're seeing it in real life.
In this initial description, did you say what color the goblin was?
So they said that it was a silvery color.
Okay.
Shiny silvery.
Okay.
The little green men thing was a conflation of this story and another story that happened a little bit later where a lady saw some similar man alien thing that was green.
Okay.
And then it all kind of, you know, became lore. But Lucky and Billy specifically say that it was very shiny silver.
Okay.
So, I mean, gray. That's the grays. Basically, they described a gray. Except
the grays in other stories don't have the long arms with claws on them.
Yeah.
Wait, I have a question just about the description, too, because what I remember from the story, because I knew a little bit about it, don't they have ears, too?
So the drawings...
Yeah, I remember seeing a drawing.
The drawings have ears, and I will post pictures of that.
So that's different from, like, grays of modern day today, too.
Yeah, they're kind of like, you know, like the ears themselves kind of look like when you look at it from the front, they kind of look like great horned owl. You know, those little feathers that come up.
Kind of like almost like little horns.
Yes, but then from the side, they look like big, giant ears.
Are they shaped like
They're pointy.
They are pointy, okay. Mm-hmm.
And they go above the head. Like, they're like horns. They're giant.
Right.
But the head is still perfectly round, and the body is exactly as I've described it. Arms almost to the ground with claws, 3 feet tall. And actually, this drawing, they have very defined pecs.
Ooh,
as well as some nice biceps. Their mouths are just like one big line. So basically imagine Pac-Man with giant ears and like a nice bod.
So 3D Pac-Man, not just the side-scrolling mouth.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
What do you think their first instinct was upon seeing such?
There was only one.
There was one. They opened the door, glowy light, one alien.
Well, I know what my first instinct would be.
What would your instinct be? I'm curious.
If this was 1955 and I was in the same exact situation, I would probably try to talk to it. But if it doesn't respond, I would probably try and leave.
Okay.
But I'm guessing they're going to shoot it.
Yes. Lucky and Billy immediately grab guns and start shooting it, which I imagine they must keep their guns literally just leaning against the door.
I don't know if you said how far away it was, but if they had a very clear view of what this was and that it was something that was obviously dangerous looking, then I probably would get it and might do the same too. But like if there's any, doubt that it could be a person, I wouldn't be shooting.
Judging from the drawings, they had a very clear view of what it was. I mean, they made a point of saying it was standing directly in front of their back door. So they open the door and it's like if somebody knocked on your door. And you open the door and they're right there.
Okay.
So they immediately grab their guns and they shoot it, which you think would be the end of that alien. But turns out, bulletproof. So how's Bigfoot going to rip through that shit?
Wait, so did the bullets just like ricochet off?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So they shot like a bunch of times at it, but it raised its hands up. Like, don't shoot.
Hello.
And then it did a backflip and ran away.
Hell yeah.
Exactly. Like Leprechaun.
Yeah, like a trickster, a prankster.
Yes, but no, like the movie Leprechaun. Do you remember there's like a scene where he does like an actual little backflip?
Yeah.
That's what this was. He raised his hands to be like, I'm here in peace. And then he did a backflip and just ran away.
I like him.
Well, right after that, another one showed up.
Okay.
In a side window, which they specified that it was not the same one. I imagine they looked the same, but
it couldn't have like gotten from point A to point B fast enough.
Then again, this is an alien, so
sure, yeah.
The assumption is that it's the second one. So it showed up like peeking into a side window of the house.
Hello, fuckers.
Exactly. And Lucky and Billy did the whole like shoot first, ask questions later. My question is
no questions later.
Right, ask zero questions. I feel like, man, they must have ruined a lot of windows and walls. Well, I mean,
if they didn't even paint the house, they don't care.
True. They probably would have to. Take their horse into town to get some more grease paper.
Yeah, I guarantee there's already bullet holes in the walls of this house.
Valid point. Anyways, they shot at that one, but that one, again, bulletproof, does the same little flip and runs away. Glennie, the family matriarch. So far, only 2 people have seen these, Lucky and Billy Ray. Glennie, though, once the shooting started, all of the people in the house got freaked out and started barricading themselves, assuming, Lucky and Billy Ray got this covered, their guns.
Right. And they are probably assuming it's like just like a robber or something or someone.
Yeah, they have no idea what's happening. Right. So Glennie just like grabs her 3 younger children and they're like kind of crouching down in a hallway. So she actually saw one approaching the back door. Like she was crouched down. She sees this silvery metal thing come down the back door. And now at this point, the entire family has seen it because they're shooting at one in a window. Glennie and her kids see one through the back door. I imagine the other adults. I mean, it's a 3-bedroom house.
Right.
So if you don't see it in one direction, you're going to see it in the other direction. I shouldn't say 3-bedroom, 3-room house.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I guess if they don't have running water, there's probably no like bathroom.
Yes.
They probably have an outhouse or something.
I'm imagining like a kitchen, a family area,
And a bedroom.
So the point is, if they're in like a tiny 3-bedroom house, some people are shooting through a window at one alien. The rest of them are either going to see that alien or the one at the back door.
Right.
So we know there's at least 2.
At least 2, but most likely 3.
Most likely 3. So the entire family by now has seen this, and they all corroborate those exact same facts. All 11 of them, from Glennie to the 7-year-old. So to me, that is a point in their favor, because I don't know if you've ever tried to listen to a 7-year-old tell a story, but generally the facts don't match up.
No.
So after this, they shoot at the second one. It does the flip. It runs away. Everything goes silent. I'm not sure what happened to the one that Glennie saw standing at the back door. I imagine when the shooting started, it probably also ran away, judging from the conduct of the previous 2.
Right.
Billy Ray.
Cyrus.
Sure. That's kind of actually, every time I read this, I picture Billy Ray Cyrus as this guy. And honestly, it makes sense.
I'm sure there's at least one mullet happening.
So Billy Ray steps outside the door to peek his head out and see if it's all clear. And as he peeks his head out, a claw reaches down off the roof and grabs his hair and whips his head back. And there's actually like a short tug of war between the alien and Glennie. And like Glennie grabs Billy Ray.
So it is safe to assume there probably was a mullet involved if the hair was long enough to grab.
It would not surprise me. So were there mullets in 1955?
I mean, I don't think they were called mullets, but
I feel like if we're talking small town 1955, he had a ducktail for sure.
Ooh.
Oh, God. Anyways, the family wins the tug of war, and Lucky, once Billy Ray's free, Lucky shoots at it.
Yeah.
Obviously. So that creature and another one that were in a nearby tree floated to the ground. Like they floated like a feather floating to the ground. And then they scuttled away.
I mean, obviously you weren't there, but
right.
When they say floated down, I'm wondering if they like kind of just jumped off and just kind of like Mary Poppins float, or is it more like flying squirrel, like take a dive?
I think it's more flying squirrel, but not take a dive, but like float, like maybe
like a Superman floating,
like a Canada Goose coming down from its.
Okay, is it like in the shape of like an airplane,
I'm not
or is
sure
he just like floating down? Like
that
Mary
I
Poppins?
That I don't know, but I'm kind of picturing more of a Mary Poppins situation where it's like they
slowly
jump, but
falling.
it's like in slow motion.
Okay,
that's how it was. It was described as floated to the ground. So far we've seen there's one on the roof, there was one in the window, there was one at the front door, there was one at the back door, and then there was the one that jumps out of the tree. So that
how much time has lapsed though between the initial shots and the one that jumped from the tree? Because I'm just wondering if it could have been like one of the same first ones that climbed a tree.
And it could have. It definitely could have. I don't actually have the entire actual time.
I just don't
I imagine it's like 15 to 20 minutes max.
Okay, so it could have been one of the same ones and it just moved.
Yes.
So that doesn't mean there's 5. It could still be like 3 of them.
Right. We know there's more than one.
For sure. I'm just trying to keep track of how many there are for sure.
My assumption, 5. But
okay.
After this, I mean, the Suttons and Billy Ray and his wife, they all go back into the house and they barricade themselves in there because...
With what?
Guns.
They only have guns.
But they sat in that house for 4 hours listening to hear movement to see if it was safe to go outside. Like, they're terrified.
Yeah.
But at 11 p.m., things quieted down enough and they gained enough confidence that they opened the door, sprinted to their cars, and then sped to the Hopkinsville police station.
Okay.
Because where else are you going to go? Like, who do you tell about this?
Right.
So the police listen to them, see that they're obviously terrified, and go to the home and they do a thorough check. But the only evidence they can find is like the shell casings and the bullet holes.
Right.
The police can see something occurred. Whether or not it was aliens, there was something they were terrified about and shooting it.
Huh.
So they asked if the family was drinking, trying to get to the root of this. Were they making some moonshine or something?
Right.
Turns out that Glennie has evidently banished all fun from the household.
Yeah, I was going to say, if they're banning books
I
of all things.
I don't know that those are banned. I just imagine they don't have time to read them. Maybe they're busy doing homesteading.
Painting the house.
The point is, no alcohol.
Okay.
There's no alcohol. There's no drugs. There's no smoking. Which is why when you asked if she was religious, I imagine the answer is yes, but not necessarily in not an Amish community sort of way. More of just like a very conservative Southern 1955 lady kind of.
Sure. Okay.
So all of these people were completely sober. The only thing they had to drink was well water, apparently.
Yum.
After the police left, the police did their check. They looked around. They see the bullet casings. They're like, let us know if anything else happens.
Mm-hmm.
Too bad you don't have a phone. So keep some access to your car, I guess. They leave. Because what are they going to do other than take a statement and look around?
Right.
The Suttons all kind of settle down. They're like taking deep breaths. They have to go to bed. At this point, it's like well past midnight.
Right.
Glennie lays down and she opens her eyes at 2:30 a.m. and she says that there was one of them staring at her through the window, tapping at the window with its claws.
Wake up, fucker.
Honestly, all I am picturing is...
I get Freddy Krueger vibes, but like little goblin versions.
I'm totally picturing Warwick Davis because he had those. He had those claws in Leprechaun.
Yep.
So it's like Leprechaun 2 in outer space. Or which ones? There's an outer space one, right?
There's like 6 or 7
it's like
of those
Back
movies.
to the Hood.
Well, those are like the last couple, yeah. But
point is, he's tapping at it with his claws. Waking up to see anybody tapping on your window would be off-putting, I imagine.
Yes, of course.
So the next day, the police decide to do a checkup on the Suttons, and they go back and they do a more thorough check during the daytime because when they checked originally, it was well past midnight.
And there's no light or anything.
Exactly. I don't know if they believed the story, but they believed that the Suttons believed it happened.
Right.
As I said, they were like super put off by the fact that this family was even terrified enough to show up to the police station. I guess this sort of town is not like police are the last resort.
Yeah.
And like generally, I would imagine if I'm just thinking of all of the books I read, people would be like too proud to go to the cops.
Well, and also this type of family that's willing to, take out all forms of entertainment they're going to be very self-sufficient and also probably not very trusting of cops too.
Yes, exactly. That's the vibe that I got.
Yeah.
So the cops think it's legitimate enough to go back and do another check. They're looking for the UFO print. They were looking for footprints. They were looking for maybe like blood from one of the goblins because the goblins got shot a bunch, but bulletproof. And a local radio station came down and they had somebody make drawings of what the aliens looked like based on what the Suttons said.
Right.
Which are those drawings I described earlier. It's basically Pac-Man with like some nice pecs and nice biceps, super long arms, claws, and like big kind of bat wing ears.
Okay.
One other thing in their favor, the police chief commented that all of them had remarkable consistency in their story. They were all questioned separately and asked to write separate statements, and they were all exactly the same and exactly the same amount of specificity. Which, again, they were in the house for hours.
Right.
All barricaded together.
But the thing is, if it's the exact same amount of specificity, did they rehearse it?
Right. That's what I did not read every single report. Obviously, like, I shouldn't say exact same amount of specificity, but the point is everybody was equally detailed in what they saw and they all described the same thing, but from different perspectives.
Right. Yep.
Even if they had spent 4 hours rehearsing this story whilst barricaded in their house, or if they had planned it even for like weeks in advance to just one day start a hoax in this town, I find it incredibly difficult that 11 people would be able to be so consistent over such a long period of time. And it's such a variety of ages. I'm talking like the 7, 9, 12-year-olds.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't even
I mean,
get a story
I don't
straight.
really think they would fake it either, just because there's not really anything to gain from it.
Exactly. So this pretty much immediately became a worldwide phenomenon because once the radio stations got a hold of it, then the newspapers got a hold of it. It got everywhere. I mean,
Right.
it was such a well-documented case that people just went crazy over it. And that's essentially how we come to view aliens the way we do. There have been a lot of investigations about this incident over the years.
Wait, did anything happen after the one woke up, what's her face, by tapping on her window?
No, not that. They stayed in the house, and then in the morning, the police came again.
Oh, okay.
I didn't read anything further.
Oh, okay. I was just curious because
I mean, they couldn't have called the cops, so I imagine it just eventually left if it wasn't going to break into the window.
Right. Yeah, no, I was just curious because we just kind of stopped talking about it. So
yeah, no, and that's the way the story is. So that's the entire incident. It's one incident with approximately 5 or 6. If the one tapping on the window is a completely new one.
Yeah.
There's between 3 and 6 aliens.
Sure.
It all occurs between 8 p.m.
and
2:30 a.m.
Yeah.
So it's very strange that somebody would come up with a hoax of that nature occurring at such a very short period of time with no even like attempted evidence other than the bullets.
Right.
To me, I think this family story is credible.
I think so too. I mean, just because, I don't think if they wanted to keep to themselves, like they don't really have anything to gain from it other than potential popularity, which they probably don't want anyway.
Right. Like these are not the sort of people who want people like showing up on their land.
Right. Yeah.
So that's in their favor, believability. But I like to look up the pros and cons, the fors and againsts. And there have been a bunch of investigations of this incident over the years because it's been so well documented. So there are theories for and against. We'll start with the against.
Mm-hmm.
Point number 1, no physical evidence. I mean, other than the bullet casings, and they took the heart rates of a couple of the people as like evidence that they were actually legitimately terrified. But there's no evidence of aliens, no specific evidence.
Right.
Point number 2, in the days following the incident, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people came to their land to see where it happened because it became like a worldwide phenomenon. Allegedly, the family hated this. And they put up like no trespassing signs, and they did everything they could. I imagine their guns were involved.
Possibly, sure.
But people are persistent. Eventually, they realized everything they did was ineffective. So what they started to do was charge admission. So it was 50 cents to just come onto the property. It was $1 to ask any questions, and it was $10 to take pictures. So was this all a ploy for attention and money?
I mean, eventually,
so.
Eventually,
Honestly,
yes, it was. But the question is,
it was eventually profitable.
Yes,
you could argue that they did all this in order to. It's an interesting. Interesting hustle. If that's what your goal.
I feel like though. I mean, I guess that is a possibility. That could have been the plan from the start. But I don't really think they could have foreseen it being as popular as it was.
Honestly, with that sort of story, I would imagine the cops would laugh at me and be like, leave. And then anybody else I told this story to, they'd be like, you're an idiot.
And I mean, at this point in history, I mean, like sideshows and gigs like that are definitely nothing new.
Right.
But didn't you at some point mention one of the people involved of the 11 was like involved in a circus somehow?
Lucky, the son, and Billy Ray and his wife were involved in a carnival.
Carnival.
I don't know what that means. I don't know what their positions at the carnival were.
Because at this point, I mean, I know sideshow type stuff was slowly being phased out, but I'm sure if they worked in that kind of scene, that was something that they have been exposed to. So I guess that's always that's another against point too, or maybe they were thinking we can kind of profit by just having people say this is where this story happened or something.
Right. To me, it's just, I will personally be too nervous to go around telling everybody in my small neighborhood that I've seen an alien. And then you'd have to plan for the fact that people would believe you enough to put it on the news. And that news story would go big enough to go like nationwide and then worldwide. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's
sure. But in
big
1955,
risk, I guess.
you know, alien sightings were not really a thing yet either.
True.
So, you know, maybe they were thinking this is something that, you know, could be profitable because no one's done it.
True. But I mean, just judging from what the cops said, like the
No, I
cops'
know.
first impression.
And I don't think that they thought
I don't
that.
think
I'm just
so
saying
either.
that's a possibility.
I don't know this family. Just from what I picture is this is a family that wants to be left alone.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
But
why would you be living in a
eventually
three-room
they
house?
were no longer being left alone. So
Right,
they
so
thought
why
they
not
might as well
profit
take
off
their
your
money.
inconvenience?
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'd do it. So the third point against them is that in 2006, an investigator named Joe Nickel reviewed all of the evidence, and he came to the conclusion that the spaceship that Billy had originally seen while he was getting water was actually a meteor, because there were several other meteor sightings at that time on that day. And he suggests that the aliens themselves were actually great horned owls.
I mean, they're big.
They're big. They've got the pointy horns, the big eyes, the round heads. They've got long talons.
They're not bulletproof.
They are not bullet. That's exactly. So that's what I have written down. Like, you would think that with all of the shooting they were doing, especially since they said they were in such like point blank range, they would have gotten one of them.
And also,
Plus,
it's
why
not
would there
like
be like a swarm of horned owls?
And also, if they've been living there for a while, I'm sure they know what owls look like.
Exactly. That's the other thing I've written down. You would think a family of 9 people plus 2 extra people who live in a 3-room shack in the middle of the woods with no TV, no radio, no books, no entertainment of any kind.
Yeah.
They have seen a great horned owl.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, we live in Duluth. I've seen an owl before. I could tell you what an owl is. Now, if I saw one outside my window at 2:30 in the morning and all I saw was the eyes, yes, that would freak me out.
Right.
But if we're talking 8 p.m. on a summer night in Kentucky,
it would still be light out at that point, or
light
at least
enough.
dusk.
Yes, light enough that I feel like you'd be able to tell it was an owl. And if you didn't, one of the 10 other people in the house would be able to, because everybody claimed that they saw it. So the people who defend the story say that they fully trust the word of Glennie and her family for the same reasons that we basically have said we did. She's like a no-nonsense older lady, 50, an older lady, age 50. No-nonsense older woman. She hated attention. She had absolutely no reason to lie. None of the family members or witnesses, Billy Ray, his wife, they've never made previous allegations of this kind ever.
Mm-hmm.
They were never mentioned in any police reports. There's no stories about them. People didn't say anything weird, like, this family is weird. They believe in, you know.
And I assume that none of them really did anything similar since then either.
I did not read.
But I feel like that would be a major point that would be brought up in any source, though, is if, you know, similar claims were made by any of them after this event.
Right, because they're worldwide names now, or at least the Sutton family name is a well-known name. I just don't see a reason for them to lie. It doesn't seem to be in the character of these sorts of people to just make up a story for profit. And also, why would they shoot up their own home, shoot through the windows? They even had Air Force or military or Army officers come in and they found no evidence of a hoax. Like, this was well studied afterwards. And I mean, like I said earlier, you'd think with like 4 hours of constant shooting and barricading, they would have taken down at least one owl, if it was an owl, or an animal of some kind, because they ain't bulletproof.
One inconsistency too. I mean, there would be a lot of similarities in like how a great horned owl looks similar to what they describe this goblin as, but they're not going to have long arms with claws at the end that reach their, you know, feet. Like,
well, I mean, you would see the claws, and but the wings would. I mean. But when folded down.
Yeah, I guess. But weren't the claws on the arms, though, when they saw them?
Yeah. And honestly, looking at the picture, I can see the similarity with the owl in the head.
Yeah.
But it has a human body with some righteous pecs. So I've never been attracted to an owl before. But
yet.
Anything could happen. There was one other alternative explanation that honestly I think is like more preposterous than the actual alien theory. And that is that a rocket full of test flight monkeys crashed in the area, and that's what the families.
Were there any test flight monkeys missing?
That's like, again, nothing was
That's
Nothing was
stupid.
mentioned. I mean, they even had Air Force people come through. You'd think people from the Air Force would know people who know about rocket monkeys.
I mean, wait, who brought up that point?
It was. I don't have a specific name.
Okay.
It's just that's another.
I'm just wondering if that's even something that's listed as a possibility. Maybe since the military was involved, maybe they were looking for monkeys. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, even then, you got a group of monkeys and you're shooting all over your house. You got multiple guns shooting in multiple directions. You wouldn't get a single one.
Right. I will say though, it makes more sense visually that it would be a monkey over an owl just because of the arms reaching the floor, like longer arm length.
Yep, and the round head and the ears. I mean, like
ears
would be a little different. And the biceps.
True, pecs and biceps. Yeah.
So there was no mention of a tail in any of the images.
I feel like if you send a monkey to space, you got to take the tail off.
They use the tail for motion, moving around.
I guess. They're more aerodynamic if you take the tail off.
I guess. So that's the story. The Hopkinsville Goblins are 3-foot tall pack aliens with bulletproof skin and giant claws, and you cannot tell me that if they wanted to, they wouldn't be able to take down a motherfucking Bigfoot.
I mean, okay. I don't know, because how are they bulletproof? Is it because they are able to like withstand great force, but I imagine they still need to breathe in some capacity? Bigfoot could just lay on top of them and just suffocate them to death.
Well, I mean, I guess, but they'd have to lay still, and you'd have to lay on all 6 of them. Let's assume there's 6. Nuh-uh, man.
I just don't think there's enough known about these goblins to say they could be Bigfoot.
I mean, you get 6 muscular, bulletproof toddlers.
You want to hear some trivia that I just kind of thought of because of these goblins in Sableye?
Sure.
And this is actual trivia. This is not going to be a joke. So
nobody believes you.
No. So Sableye is based on these creatures, and they gave it a typing of dark and ghost type. When combined together, it has several invulnerabilities against other types, but no weaknesses as well until fairy type was introduced several generations later. But I just think it's interesting because the goblins are bulletproof and this Pokemon has no weaknesses.
It's the nerdiest load of shit
I'm just saying it's interesting that worked out that way. I wonder if it was intentional.
It could have been. I mean, how much research do you think they do when creating such?
A lot.
For each one?
Yeah, more than you think. There's a lot of lore involved. And
I mean, I guess that doesn't surprise me. My final thought on this, I think, is more of a commentary on the Suttons themselves. But these aliens just originally politely came up to the door.
Oh, yeah. He put his hand up.
He put his hands up and everything. I mean, like they could have just been asking for some directions,
or just took a gun trying to make initial contact, and then we're just responding by trying to kill them.
Right. So, do you think that like our reputation in the Galactic Federation of Aliens is that we're like the Klingons of the universe?
Or we're just the dumb fucks that no one should ever even pay attention to.
Well, it's just we have weapons of destruction. And it's the first thing we go to.
But the thing is,
regardless,
they're not destructive because they're bulletproof. So it's
right.
Maybe they view us as like cavemen because we just haven't advanced enough to even harm them.
Right. But the thing is, it's interesting to me because it's very clear in hindsight that if it was aliens, they had no intention of causing any harm. They didn't enter the house at all.
Yeah.
They and
even that last one just tapping on the window, even though it looks frightening.
Yes.
They're just trying to like say, hey, we're still here. We want to talk.
Now, the tug of war, the human tug of war.
Yeah, that's true.
I can't really explain that one away. But at the same time.
They could just be trying to fight back too because
So.
Or they're like the leprechaun and they're just trying to cause mischief.
Right. It's just the Suttons could have been a little more subtle. They could have invited him in for tea.
They don't have tea. They don't have books. Who are you kidding? They have well water, and that's it.
That's a valid point. So that's the story of the Hopkinsville Goblins. Great story, honestly.
I wish there was more, though. I mean, I know, obviously, this is something that really happened to this family, whether you believe it's aliens or not.
Yeah.
But I just wish, like, it ended with, like, a shootout, like an actual shootout or something.
Or other further sightings.
Right. And not just like them barricading themselves in.
Honestly, there may have been, but because this became such a stereotype, I feel like in the future, if anyone says they see a little big-eyed, round-headed alien, you didn't see that. That's like, that's what you've heard an alien looks like.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So
yeah.
like, it's possible that these aliens have been sighted.
It's just not by the Suttons. Again.
Yes, they only saw them the one time. Though, to be fair, if I was a Hopkinsville Goblin, no way am I going back to that house.
No. I'm just saying, with this one encounter, I wish it ended in a different way. That's all. No,
I completely agree with you. I wish there was more. I wish there was more proof. Like even if there was just like a UFO footprint. Imprint,
or just a footprint from the goblins.
Yeah, or like scratch marks. Anything. I honestly, of all of them, I believe it. I believe this family. Maybe I shouldn't, but I do. It's
definitely more believable than a lot of other famous alien stories.
Yes. So, entertainment value. I'm giving it a 10 out of 10.
You always go 10 out of 10.
Because I was entertained.
But there's no closure, no evidence. I'm giving it...
entertainment value.
I know. I wanted to be entertained with like a climax to this arc. I give it a 7.
Okay, that's fair. Believability factor, I'm giving them 7.5 or 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I was going to say 8.
I maintain some skepticism. I guess
there
could be owls.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. There is a lot of possibilities in this situation, but it definitely does seem more believable than, the fire in the sky story. And
yes, it's just, I believe the family.
Yeah, I don't think they would have any other motivations that would cause them to report this story.
Right. And I cannot believe that they made it up to profit for 50 cents per person walking onto their land.
I don't think that was the initial intent.
No. That's the Hopkinsville Goblins. And
Goblin these nuts.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Anyways, that's that story. Liked it, and I still think I maintain that they would have crushed a Bigfoot.
Well, if you're listening, tell us what you think. Who would win, Bigfoot or let's just say 5 of these goblins?
Yeah, 5 goblins versus 1 Bigfoot. Stereotypical Bigfoot.
Yeah,
like Bigfoot,
7 to 9 feet tall.
Picture you see of that gorilla man, even though we all know that's a fake picture.
Right.
But that's Bigfoot.
Yeah, 7 to 9 feet tall, muscular, hairy dude, hairy monkey man.
Tweet it at us. Tweet it at us which one you believe would win.
Yeah, or any social media.
Yes.
Well, we're talking about now. Let's just do the quick plug. NerdSloth HQ on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And if you want to email us, it's contact@nerdsloth.com.
Yes, and we would love to hear any spooky stories you've got. They don't have to be about aliens. They don't have to be about cryptids. They don't have to be about ghosts. It's just got to be something spooky that happened to you.
Just something personal to you, though. That's all we're asking.
Yeah. This week, we do not have a listener story, unfortunately. So please send us your listener stories. But I came across an article today that came out today.
So you're going to know when we're filming this or recording this now because you could Google it.
December 8th, 2020.
The shroud of
mystery has been lifted.
Yeah.
At first, I saw this on The Mirror, which is not a reputable website.
No.
Then I go and I look at it. It's on NBC News, Reuters, The Guardian, the Denver Channel, Snopes, IGN.
Well, okay, Snopes. I guess I don't even know what the story is going to be, but if it's on Snopes, they're going to say, is it real or fake? So
here's the story. Former Israeli space security chief says extraterrestrials exist and Trump knows about it.
I mean, I will say if they do exist, of course Trump knows about it because it's something that would have most likely been communicated to him being president.
Right. Okay, so here's the gist. This man, his name is Haim Eshed.
Okay.
I believe that's how it's pronounced. Please forgive me if that was butchered. He has a doctorate in aeronautical engineering. He worked for Israel Space Security, rocket launchings, respected professor, retired general in the military.
Okay.
So fairly respected man.
Yeah.
People would generally take him seriously. He's retired now. he says he has nothing to lose because he's won all of his awards. He's gotten all of his degrees at this point.
But one could say he's also trying to relight the flame of interest in his identity.
Possibly, right.
And he's bored, possibly.
Well, his claim is that aliens from a galactic federation have been in contact with the government, but they have specifically asked not to publish that they are here because humanity is not ready yet. Here's the red flag.
That's like a good quarter of any sci-fi movie.
Yes, but this man, super high, I assume security clearance, and he's like, hey, they told us not to tell, but like, just so you know, they're here. He claims that the aliens are curious about humans. They're trying to understand the fabric of the universe. There have been cooperation agreements signed between us and the aliens, including an underground base in the depths of Mars, where he states that there are American astronauts located as well as alien representatives.
In this base on Mars.
Yes.
Or in Mars.
Right, under Mars. Underground on Mars.
So, okay. I'm just going to give my stance on aliens in general. I have absolutely no doubt that intelligent life exists somewhere in the universe, not on Earth, because the universe is so massive, right. It would just be more improbable that it doesn't exist.
Right. I agree with you.
But what I think is, unless they have some crazy technology that allows them to travel in wormholes or something, and they don't have to travel near the speed of light.
Or they live for millions of years.
Right. I just think it's so unlikely that any aliens have made contact with us because there's nothing nearby that would be able to habitat life.
Right. But you're also constrained by earthly
Well, no, that's what I mean, though. If they have some kind of technology that allows them to travel at large distances in short amount of time that we can't even conceive of.
If we're talking the fact that intelligent life even exists, the possibility of them being able to reach us is equally as possible.
Right, but I mean, we consider ourselves intelligent as a species, but we can feasibly have no idea how to travel to another galaxy.
Right. And we may never find out before our race dies, our human race dies out.
Right.
Basically, this guy says there's an agreement between the American government and the aliens. The aliens have signed a contract with us to do experiments here. I don't know if this is like, the probes and the abductions. I don't know if this is that kind of
There's
alien.
this old story that like Eisenhower or maybe a president around that era of our history signed an agreement with aliens.
Yes, I've heard
So
that.
like we have given up some people for testing purposes in exchange for something that I don't remember.
Right.
Like I think it was technology in general. That's how we've advanced so much in like Air Force technology and Wi-Fi and internet and stuff. But I guess that's the idea.
Sure.
I want to point one other thing out too before you continue.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's interesting that only the American government is the one that is dealing with these aliens. It's very self-centered.
Well, this is an Israeli official.
I know, but Israel is also like one of the most allied of our allies.
Yes, I guess what I'm saying is, why would he have knowledge of any other government?
Well, right, but you said that he said only the United States government is in dealings with these aliens, which just makes me think like...
I don't think, from reading this, it doesn't sound like it's restricted to the American government. But I mean, if I imagine the intelligence that he has is fairly restricted to American and Israeli.
That's true.
Intelligence. Because, I mean, and again, the American government is much more powerful, was much more powerful, that I imagine we would probably strong arm anything.
Well, I just imagine if this is real, they would probably want, a representative of, all of the major powers and not just one.
And I imagine if that's the case, like if this is real, then that is the case. That would be the case. But this is my favorite part of the article. This professor adds that President Donald Trump is well aware of the extraterrestrials' existence, and he's consistently been on the verge of revealing it. But people keep asking him not to in order to prevent mass hysteria.
Oh my God.
Of course.
Yeah.
B, what is it? If he thinks this is going to cause mass hysteria, what the fuck is he doing giving this interview? Come on.
Well, and also Trump's on his way out. Lame duck presidency period.
Honestly,
oh my God, if this is true, please.
I will make it very clear. I am not a fan of Donald Trump. We're not going to turn this into a political thing.
No, not at all. But I just hope to God
you are leaving the office. Please reveal the existence of extraterrestrials and their contact with the Earth.
He's already not a very credible source of information, Trump.
Right, but of all of the things to lie about, aliens, honestly, I wouldn't put it past him. But the point is, now is the time.
Yeah.
The fabric of truth and lies in the United States is at the thinnest it's ever been. Please take this opportunity to tell us if they exist.
Yeah.
A spokesperson for the Pentagon declined to comment. They declined to comment on this. NASA says that although we have yet to find signs of extraterrestrial life, we are exploring the solar system and beyond to help us answer fundamental questions, including whether we are alone in the universe. And that's it. I don't know. That's fresh off of the internet.
Yeah, I'm gonna after we're done recording, I'm gonna read a little bit more about it.
Honestly, I read multiple articles. They all say the exact same thing, and they're all fairly vague. The interview he gave was originally to a Hebrew newspaper.
Okay.
So I imagine that article is more in depth. But basically, all of the websites say he has nothing to lose. He feels that now, rather than, say, 5 years ago, people are more likely to believe him than they would have. Like 5 years ago, they might have called him crazy, but now people are more open-minded.
Well, I think it's just because news in general is becoming more and more not news. Yeah.
Again, there's plenty of reasons for this man to lie. Why not? But I don't want to believe he's lying. So I'm not going to. Aliens exist.
Hey, it's interesting enough because mainstream media is reporting on it. So, they're giving him a little bit of credibility by even giving him the light of day.
He's clearly a well-respected. He worked.
And that's true. Yeah, he has a lot of the, credentials of being involved in this kind of thing.
Right. So that gives him another ounce of credibility. Anyways, guys, if you see any interesting articles you want to throw our way, send them to us. Send us your stories.
Yeah, send us stories too, please.
And we hope you liked this.
Yeah.
This one was fun.
And if you have any requests for episode topics, let us know too.
Yep. And Everett will be hosting the next one.
And I'm also in plans for a special Christmas episode, releasing on Christmas, Friday the 25th. So keep an eye out for a little bit of Christmas spooky.
Yeah.
Love you.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.
Presented by NerdSloth,
a place for lazy nerds.
If you like what you heard, consider donating at patreon.com/NerdSloth so we can continue bringing you quality shows. Be sure to also leave us a review and share your favorite episodes and clips on social media. If you're looking for more content, visit us at nerdsloth.com.